Hey, everybody. Welcome back to what is going to be a pillar of the move in the future. Super excited to talk about the 2022 Tour de France Femmes presented by Zwift. I'm here in Aspen, Colorado, joined by our friend and the one that everybody has called for and said, we need more, Allison Tetrick. Allison joining us to talk about the 2022 Women's Tour. And over there in Madrid, Johan Bernil. And y'all think he knows, the ins and outs of men's cycling. Well, guess what? He also knows the ins and outs of women's cycling. So, Johan, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Very excited.
Today's show, as it is each and every time, today's show brought to you by Oura. The Oura Ring has been a game changer for me, monitoring sleep, activity, recovery, all of the key vital metrics when it comes to your daily life, 24 hours a day. Head on over to Oura Ring. That's OURA ring.com and check it out. Hey, Allison, Johan, this is, I think a lot of people, cycling fans, have probably sat back and said, okay, finally, right? We're finally back to this point. And this is, and frankly, this came sooner than I expected. I think we've been on this show in the past, we've been sort of curious and critical, like what's taking so long here? Kudos to ASO for pulling it together. This is going to be finally, right? We're going to see the best cyclists in the world. 22 teams, 6 riders per team, 22 teams, 6 riders per team, 8 days, 8 stages, starting, it's a bit in the reverse, starting in Paris on the same day that the men finish. And finishing 8 days later at the Planche de Belleville. So, and Allison, curious, just your initial thoughts. We just did the show about the men's race. We sort of went around the horn and just talked about what we thought overall. What outside of sort of history being restarted here and the emphatic finally, overall thoughts on the course?
I think actually the course is very well balanced. The one big thing it's missing is an individual time trial, but there's a couple stages for sprinters. There's some breakaway stages. One of the longest stages they definitely had to get a little permission from the UCI for 175K stage. So that's going to be a big one. And then 2 really mountainous finishes at the end. So, reading what the riders were talking about and texting a few, they're very happy that it's a balanced stage versus when we had done La Course, which is very sprint centric, to these mountaintop finishes and the other versions of La Course, which is very climber specific. I think there's something for everyone in these 8 days, and it's going to be a truly exciting race.
Agreed. And I'm going to just in our pre-show, and I think I just want to be really honest about this. I've not followed. I couldn't tell you sort of the 10th best GC female cyclist in the world. So, Allison, I'm going to lean on you, but I'm also going to be really transparent that this is a learning curve for me as well. And I'd love for the audience, as I learn, I'd love for the audience to learn just more and more about this side of the sport. As I said on the previous show, we plan on covering the women's tour exactly the same way we cover the men's tour. This isn't going to be, hey guys, let's spend a few minutes talking about the women. No, we're going to continue, which means we'll just keep working for 4 weeks. As the men's race ends, we'll jump straight into the women's race. Same set, same desk, same look and feel, and same passion. So I'm looking forward to learning about all these badass athletes and learning more about just the dynamics of this side of the sport.
Yeah, and we're really looking forward to showing you the big show now, Lance.
Yes,
you're going to see some really beautiful bike racing, and that's what is amazing about this sport is we all can express it differently, uniquely, and passionately. So this is going to be a big show that we have at the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift.
Yeah,
I think actually it was about time. It was about time that the Tour de France put this race back on, especially if you look at the way women's cycling has evolved. And I'm always impressed of how, compared to 10, 15 years ago, these teams nowadays are functioning exactly the same as a professional team. The strategies are the same. Some teams have, some World Tour teams have women teams. Recently, actually, Team UAE is starting a women's team for next year, which is amazing, I think.
Just pause there for a second, Johan. Yeah. I don't want that to just come and go. That is, and without just sort of trying to be an expert on what it is like to be a female in certain countries, but that is a huge move.
Big.
Like that is,
yeah.
I mean, it's something, well, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but that's huge. And of course, you know, other big men's pro tour teams, Movistar, Trek, Jumbo Visma. So absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. But the functioning of these teams is really, I mean, it's amazing how strategically they ride exactly the same thing. So I think, you know, this on this course, especially, it's going to be a great opportunity to showcase how far women's cycling has come and what an amazing level these athletes have nowadays.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a really interesting challenge and opportunity, is just to showcase this beautiful side of the sport. Women race very dynamically. Our races are a little shorter. They're very explosive. So, you know, our nature breaks aren't necessarily televised like your guys' were when you're racing 7 hours. So we have a very dynamic, fun race to watch with incredibly badass, gifted athletes. And so for us just to be able to get the broadcasting, these days of racing, and people are really going to fall in love with this side of the sport, you know, even more.
I agree. And I we have seen this. If I just think, I mean, I'm a sports fan. I love watching sports. If you just look at the last 30 years, I mean, 30 years ago, who would have thought that Serena Williams was arguably the biggest name in the sport, male or female? Then you look at soccer and you see the way that the women's national team has come up. It is about time. And that, yeah, hell yeah. I got 3 daughters. Let's go.
Yeah, the rules are changing. And, you know, I think for women's sports in general, so this isn't just about cycling. It's about this cultural moment to celebrate all sports, you know, however you identify or how you're performing. And just to think that 1984 was the first year we had Olympics for women cycling, and that was Connie Carpenter, an American, won it. But 1984, what? Like that was the first year of the marathon too. So the time is now, but it's really celebrating just sports, I think, too, in this definitely this moment and changing the rules, right?
Yep, we'll be there to cover it. We are, and another thing where it's cool to note, Julian Alaphilippe's, I'm not sure if they're married, but let's just call his wife. And the mother of their
partner,
child,
I believe. Yeah.
Partner. We'll call her partner. Marianne Roos, who was an excellent cyclist and had done a bunch of time in the TV booth covering the tour, is the director general of the tour. I mean, what a great first pick.
Yeah, Marianne's incredible. She was the 2012 French national champion. She retired from professional cycling in 2015. She raced for Lada Sudal, actually, when I was racing over there as well. Talented on the bike and just a very professional expertise in this field, of course. So I think it's really exciting to have her be the director of the Tour de France.
Yeah,
let's need to work on that.
Johan, you're talking to a guy who speaks like 18 languages. So, and I speak like 1.5. So you're safe in this crew. I want to jump into just some of the details of the course itself, the technical part. But today's show also brought to you by Roka. Talk about them all the time on the other show. The other cool thing a really cool thing about Roka is they do a lot of stuff specific to women. I know we talked about last tour, some of the women's shades had sold out. Hell yeah, ladies, keep buying all that stuff. I mean, they really are focused on this part of the population, and hats off to Rob and his whole crew. By the way, a lot of his crew are badass women that I don't want anything to do with. They'll just straight up kick my ass. But whether you're on the bike or off the bike, Roka just continues to impress. We'll see a lot of their shades as well in the Tour de France Femmes, brought to you by Zwift. Head on over to Roka. That's roka.com, ROKA.com. Enter the MOVE for 20% off your first purchase. And Roka.com. Last one as well, LMNT. I read an interesting article. This has nothing to do with LMNT, although it does. I read a really cool article yesterday. It was just interesting to me about hydration as it pertains to men and women. I don't know if you guys saw this, but on Outside, and they have all the science and data to back it up, and it's amazing how much water we actually carry, but how much less, in a sense, hydration women need versus men. I mean, who would ever have thought and it's all backed by science. It was a fascinating article. Maybe we can put it up on the site or something, but check it out if you want to. But LMNT cuts both ways, works for men and women. It is our go-to hydration source, science-backed, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. For our listener special offer, just for the price of shipping, the free sample pack. Pick your favorite flavor and then go on from there. Drink lmnt.com/themove. Well, there's not, with 8 stages. I mean, we have to kind of focus on the last 2 days because those are the sort of the queen stages. How about that? Like we always talk about in the men's tour, this is the queen stage. Well, if it's the women's tour, this is like the double queen stage, like this, or maybe they wouldn't call it the king stage, but yeah, that's the big focus. And then the other headlines.
There's a king of the mountains. Is there a queen of the mountains? Is there a queen of the mountains?
Of course.
There cannot be. It has to be a QOM.
Yeah, it's a QOM, which arguably is better.
Atta girl. A little bit of, Allison, I know you followed some of the comments from the favorites and other riders, but also just sort of the social media world. What is the general consensus from, we'll start with the favorites. What do they think outside of course, we touched on no time trial, which I think affects others more than most, but what's the general consensus from the peloton?
I think they're just really genuinely excited. It's a little bit, it's about time. And honestly, though, being able to race the first edition of the Paris-Roubaix this year, now going into a legitimate Tour de France Femmes into 2022 means a lot. Like, it gives me the chills. They're very excited about the stage and also stages, and excited that there's just multiple opportunities for different types of riders. Like we were discussing, the climbers are chomping at the bits for their stages. And I think there are some good sprint opportunities as well as breakaway. So the hitters are thinking it's fantastic. It's 8 days. There is some criticism on, should it be longer? Honestly, the UCI rules has us limited at 6 days. And we have a couple stage races that are longer than that, which you apply for an exemption from. One is the Giraudon and then Ardèche. So most of our UCI stage races are only 6 days. This is 8, not the longest. There's some arguments on what that looks like. And the course lengths, I think they're pretty positive about it. We have one really long stage, 175K, which our legal limit in the UCI is 160K, which, once again, we were talking about, can't race too long, the whole ovaries will fall out thing, but it happens. No, it does not. But they're actually, I think it's challenging enough. They're looking at it going, this is going to be a really hard race. It's going to be on the biggest stage in the world. It is going to be probably the most important race for these women their entire year. So it's entering that level of how the men almost put the Tour de France on a bigger pedestal than they do the Olympics sometimes, right? Like, and you've talked about that. And these riders are definitely excited. They're excited about broadcasting opportunity and really getting visibility to the sport, which is going to make our sport much more viable.
Cool. How do we, what is just as a cycling fan and a fan of American cycling or Americans in the Tour, we talk about it a lot and we've seen those numbers come down. I think we'll see on the men's side, we'll see the numbers come up, but how many American women do you think we will have in this 2022 Tour?
I think we'll have at least 10 is my guess. We have some hitters, you've got Corinne Rivera that just signed for Lotto, Jumbo Visma, and she's coming from DSM. And so she's just probably one of our best sprinters. Taylor Wiles races for Trek. And then you have Tipco's going to be over there with a bunch of American riders. We have some solid contenders going over. Chloe Dygart races for Canyon SRAM, who's a world champion time trialist. So, and track.
I tell you, this Taylor Wiles, Allison, remember that gravel race we did? What was that thing called up in Northern
Fish
California?
Rock.
Fish Rock. Okay. I don't know if they still do that thing, but it was super cool. And I was kind of training hard and felt pretty fit. I went up there with Dylan, of course, Dylan Casey, and did the race. And this thing is epic. I mean, it's super hard, never flat. And this Taylor Wiles, I'll never forget, man. I kept looking around and I just could not, she was there. I was like, holy shit. Like, this is I can't drop this girl. Like, I mean, if you think, if y'all listen at home going, oh, there's such a big difference, no. And I was, of course, this is probably 4 or 5 years ago, but even at that age, I was as fit as I could be at that age. And I mean, she was like Velcro. I could not I'm so glad to hear her name because, damn, what a badass. Awesome.
She is such a badass on and off the bike. And what's really cool about this type of a race, like the Tour de France Femmes that's going to happen, right, is that we can showcase athletes like this. Like, she has an incredible story. She's overcome a lot in her life. And like, she is one of the best domestiques ever. Like, she's the nicest human being, the best of friends. So we don't see her name on paper all the time because she's on track. Like, look at all those riders she's working for, but they had so many wins this year. So hopefully she can get a win, on a stage like this, because if any other rider in the peloton deserves it, it's definitely her.
But there's a gravel stage 4. Lots of. So that's obviously going to be a good one for her.
Yeah.
But in terms of the favorites, Alison, so in your opinion, as it stands now, who's the biggest favorite? I mean, I don't think it's going to be a surprise, but in your opinion, who's the biggest favorite to win this race?
I think it's going to be really hard to beat Annemiek. So Annemiek Vanvleuten, she's on Movistar, obviously world champion and, multiple just Olympic medalist, incredible. She can go uphill. She can time trial. She's good in wind. She knows how to position herself. The only feedback I saw from her is she does not like when you put gravel in her stage races. Mm-hmm. So she's a little bit like, well, I might puncture. That adds additional luck. But hey, she's got to look forward to stage 4, where they've got 4 sections of gravel. So there's some opportunity there where the yellow jersey might be switching on and off until we get to those final last 2 stages.
But what amazing Annemiek Vanvleuten. How old is she now? 38, 39?
She'll probably be 39 next year, if not 40.
And I've heard stories from both, because before she moved to Movistar, she was on Mitchelton Scott. And I've heard stories about the training camps in the spring, in the beginning of the season. She was there with the men's team, both with Mitchelton Scott and with Movistar, and the stories are the same. On all the climbs, she's up there. She's 4th or 5th on top, with the professionals, with the men together.
But by the way, that doesn't surprise me. This is this is what I think one of the great things about, and we'll be able to see these things, although the stages are different, the total length of certain stages are different, the climbs will be the same. Like, we're not trying to compare, but Serena Williams can hit with anybody on the men's side. Katie Ledecky, arguably one of the greatest American swimmers of all time, swim at Stanford. She had to stop swimming on the women's distance side of the pool. She'd have to swim with the men's. She would kick their ass. Katie Ledecky. And we're not Stanford men's swimming team. It's one of the best swimming teams in the world, bar none. No, she went over there and said, "What's up, boys? Watch this." Just kick their ass. 10 500s. They get a couple of them. 8, 9, and 10. Katie Ledecky was winning. So that doesn't surprise me.
Vanvleuten is the same level. But what's even more surprising to me is, I don't know, did she come late to cycling, Alison? Because she's 39 now.
She came a little late, but she just progressed a little. Like, she didn't have this huge spike. I used to race against her. She was a different type of rider when I raced against her. It's funny. You race. I don't know, Johan, like how you would direct your riders, but sometimes I had my race against one particular rider. Like, I'm this style of rider. So if Chantal Bloch does this, I go with her because she doesn't surge, she and I climb the same at the time when I was racing. And Annemiek used to be one of my riders I would follow because she always went for long attacks. And then now I look at her, she's just a completely different rider. She's a climber. She's on a different level than I ever remember. But if you look at her results, that transitioned very slowly year after year. And it was just her dedication of training. I think she's very meticulous about her training, her preparation. Actually, a broken pubic bone. She crashed at Paris-Roubaix. But it's just a good time for it because off season she'll come back pissed off and ready to go.
Yeah, well, I've heard she's a real freak in terms of training. There's nobody who is able to train like her. I mean, there is no secrets. I mean, she's obviously super talented, but if on top of that you are that dedicated, it's going to be hard to beat her. But I think there's opportunity. So hopefully we get a race where she gets challenged. Who could she get challenged by?
I think it depends on what form Vos is in and if she's motivated by these courses. We've seen Vos win the Giro-Don. So we've seen Vos climb with the best of them. And, the good thing about Vos, like one of her obviously talents is she can sprint, so if there's time bonuses at the line, like she's just kind of she can do it all.
What is it that she cannot do? She just won the World Cup cyclocross 3 days ago, and yesterday she got second.
Yeah, she doesn't love time trialing. So Vos doesn't. She's not bad. She just will never like race worlds in a time trial. Like she'll always hold her own. She prologues is probably more of her thing than a pure time trial. But looking at this course, there isn't a time trial. So I think that does give opportunity for somebody who doesn't lose a lot of time in those kind of undulating, chaotic finishes and then can climb. So I think she'd be really interesting. You have Ashley Moolman, who actually, is like Zwift world champion from last year, but she's a great climber from South Africa. I would love to see Cecile Ludwig, Danish rider. She's just punchy, more climby though. So,
and what kind of interviews would we see from her if she wins stages?
Aren't they the best? The dead fish. If you guys haven't
wait, hang on. What did I miss?
Oh,
yeah. Well, I got to check this out. The biggest character post race. Unbelievable. Yes. I saw her interview after today's announcement.
Me too. I watched that.
It's the same thing. It's unbelievable. It's an amazing show. If you have to hold the camera, the microphone, you have to go like this because but she's incredible. Plus she's a great bike rider.
Oh, she's a hell of a bike rider and just a personality to beat. I literally, Johan, I did the same thing. I saw that they videoed her and I was like, click, must watch her. Anything I can do. So if I can cheer her on for a stage, that would be great. So then you're looking at climbers. I think Kasia Niedoma from Canyon SRAM, that she can climb. These are pretty long. She's very punchy though, and she never gives up attacking. I don't know if you watch her at World Championships. She got third, I believe, but she attacked more than anybody else. She's Polish rider.
It was almost unbelievable that she got still third with she was attacking until 2 kilometers to go.
Yeah. And then I felt like she was like rode in for third at that point. Yeah. So I think she's going to have a good opportunity there. So it is a good,
sorry, real quick. It is a good point because as most people know, the men's side of the tours has really become, and I hesitate to use this word because they used it with us, but it's become so methodical and robotic. Is the women's side that way? And again, just playing dumb here, but because that would be cool if this is all of a sudden just fireworks up the left, up the right, like let's go. Like, yes.
I think that is something that is beneficial about women's cycling, or just unique. Like we were talking about, each sport offers us a beautiful way to express the sport, but women, our races are shorter. So there's less time to like fool around with team tactics and let the break get 20 minutes up the road and then like decide what you're going to do. I mean, we've got like under 4 hours to get this done. And so I think the racing is very dynamic. It's explosive and like, frankly, a little more unpredictable, I think, just because sometimes like just the depth's different and it's shorter, dynamic, powerful, and just, it's a really fun event to watch and really painful when you're racing.
I think all those things are good. I think that's what makes any sporting event exciting. Absolutely. We'd be remiss, and I know this is sensitive, or we talked about it in the pre-show with you, Allison, and you see it all over social media, this issue around prize money. I'm going to hold judgment. I'm just thankful that the event is back. There is some pretty significant disparity when it comes to the prize money. I will also just add that, the men's prize purse hasn't changed in 30 years, which also doesn't make sense. But I think you had kind of done some quick math, Allison, on where it shakes out as compared to the men's race. And I'll give ASO credit. I'll give them a slight pass here because I think it's the right move right now. They have time over the coming years to get it in line. But we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on it and acknowledge it and maybe challenge some folks.
Yes. So the total prize purse for the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift is €250,000, which is a pretty substantial prize purse compared to the men's, which is about 2.3 million, but that's over 21 days. We're looking at 8 days. So our prize purse is going to be on par with something like the Criterium Dauphiné or, another men's race. So they're taking that from UCI rules and kind of standards. So if you look at what the men are making per day, about 110,000 per stage, we're making about 30% of that. There's a huge opportunity to increase that. And I'm not saying that won't happen even by the time the tour starts. The deficit of the prize money, if you put it per day, I calculated was 626,000, which honestly isn't that much to bridge that gap, for each day to be equal. And Zwift is just doing an incredible job, putting in lots of money in here to make this equal, to make it a profitable, viable event. And we're showcasing this at the biggest way we can. And Zwift is in this for 4 years. So it's not just going to happen in one day. And one of the women, I read a quote from Kate from Zwift. She said, Paris wasn't built in a day. So, they're in it for the long haul. And that just gives me chills to see companies and industries like this support our sport. So yes, we want equal prize money and it's going to happen. We also want equal broadcasting. We want to, add more days, but we have to start somewhere. And every rider I've talked to is just so positive about this, forward progress one day at a time. But let's keep pushing that, keep talking about it, keep finding other companies that might want to invest in the sport and really realizing that, visibility is viability. And you guys get to watch some really badass bike racing this summer. And we're excited about it.
I think when it first was made public, I was like, why does it not coincide with the final 8 days of the men's tour? Because I loved this idea of having the men's winner and the female winner on the top step in Paris. But as we talk through this, I think that would have been a mistake, and would have been a disservice to the women's peloton. It's just it's too much, and to have it stand on its own, have a great partner like Zwift. I think that's the right move. The only thing we miss is that photo op where you could have a Vanvleuten and a Pogacar or whoever standing on the top step in Paris. But let it stand alone. Let it be its own show. I in hindsight, I think that's the right thing. I think that's a great decision. I think it's a great decision because we all know the Tour de France. It takes up everything, all the attention. Having it together, I think, would take away interest from it, and now actually having it start in Paris on the same day as the Tour de France finishes, and have it straight on. All the viewers, they have the Tour de France blues, where they fall in a big hole when the Tour de France is finished. Now they have another week to keep going. And interesting little story I read today about Tadej Pogacar. His soon-to-be wife is obviously going to race the Tour de France, and so he's already planning on after doing the Tour de France, potentially winning it, doing another week in a camper through France to follow the Tour de France, Tour de France Femmes, to follow his girlfriend. That's a whole nother podcast. I have a lot of thoughts and recommendations for him. That's fucking amazing. So I might change campers every day just so the next thing you know, you're going to be living in an entire caravan of people. But that's amazing. Can I just go? I have just a quick question about the prize money, Allison, because in our day, and I think the same goes true today, those guys don't care about prize. The prize money in men's cycling, it's not, once you split it up with 8 different riders, 20 staff, et cetera, the prize money is negligible. They are not racing. They are racing for sponsorship dollars, team contracts, global publicity. How much on the women's side is prize money actually a deal? Is this something I understand they should be equal, right? But are women more interested in getting a new team contract and having 2.5 hours live on TV? Is that, or is prize money meaningful?
We definitely, a lot of women need the prize money to pay bills or to rent or something like that. But what happens with prize money too, it ends up going to a lot of these riders that have great contracts with salary minimums. And, Trek Segafredo is a great example. I mean, they treat Ina's a good friend of mine. She directs this team. I mean, those riders are treated very well. They have good salaries. And then Trek matches any sort of, did you guys see that when Trek, like for pre-Roubaix, they matched like what Lizzie would have won if she was a race in the men's race. So Trek like actually matched the prize money. They've been doing that all year. So that team is just, I mean, that's great. We do need the prize money, but it's one of those, I ask a lot of people because I have the same opinion. It's like chicken or the egg. Like, do you want the prize money or do you want to have everyone see your sport, which then like grows your salary, grows your contract opportunities, and then ultimately grows prize money. So most of these women, like prize money is big, but also just so people can see our sport, so our sport grows. So it's back to that visibility equals viability type argument. And then I want to go back with, I don't know on whether the race occurs during the Tour de France or the 8 days after. I'm like stuck with the rock and a hard place on that, because when racing Flanders or Flèche Wallonne and racing these events that are on the same day as the men's, you do like the crowds don't have to come out twice. And I really did enjoy being part of that party, like doing Flanders and like having beer and brat spilled on you is like pretty like spectacular. And
can we quote you on that?
Yes.
The next time you're out at one of these, these fucking freak shows, you go do these gravel things. There's gonna be all these dudes lined up with beer and brats. Hey, you said you wanted beer and brats spilled on you.
I do.
Here we go. Okay,
hey,
all right.
You brought me whiskey before. It works. I'll never be bored.
Look, I don't know. I mean, and who knows? I mean, we know what's going to happen in 2022, but TBD. I mean, ASO can do anything. So I see your point.
Then I think the question becomes, what's the course going to look like, right? Because ideally they would do 3 weeks, right? And do the stages or part of the stages of the men. But if they keep it to 8 days or 10 days, then they have to do the last 10 or the last 8 stages. So that's
right.
Oh, it's a logistical nightmare. I get it.
Right. But if there was ever a country that had an event that with a level of pride that they have, listen, the logistics in France for the Tour de France, that's not even a word. Like there are some things we have to think about, but they sort of get what they want. So it is very doable.
Yeah. No, they did it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before they had all those obstacles.
Yeah, and they were riding through the wine guards.
All right.
Alison, we have a joke about my English. Sometimes I invent words, so we have some jokes about that.
She listens to the show. She knows about.
Oh, she does. Okay.
Yeah, but we back off quick because like I said, he speaks 18 languages, and it's like when we were riding with Jan the other day, I was correcting his English. I say, Jan, actually, that's not. He says, "Oh, how's your German?" I said, all right, I'll shut up now. We don't have a lot of ground to stand on, but this is going to be exciting. This is about damn time, but here we are. And Alison, looking forward to taking the ride with you. As I said at the top of the show, we're treating this the same way. So we're going to have fun with this. I can already tell you're a lot funner than and funnier than George. George has his days. He's gets a little cranky. His hair's not right. His groceries didn't arrive at the front doorstep. You have the right level of spice. This is going to be fucking fun.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And again, we're looking forward to it.